hello friends.
Здравствуйте, друзья. Спасибо, что навестили
Thank you for visiting Cyber Academy,
отличное начинание, которое
an excellent undertaking that brings good, necessary, and intelligent to the
Итак,
world.
я хотел бы сегодня рассмотреть
So today I would like to consider modern
токены,
standards that are used,
которые используются, современные стандарты токенов, которые у нас используются
modern
в
standards of tokens which
сети
are used in our network, Ethereum blockchain, and accordingly
небольшой анализ,
make a small analysis of popular, unpopular, and where you can go further.
популярных и куда можно двигаться дальше. Ну, в первую очередь, скажу сразу,
Well,
что презентация как таковой не будет.
first of all, let's say right away that there will be no presentation as such.
Непонятно. Не буду нагружать
I will draw, you can ask questions along the way if something is not clear. I will not load very much with technical terms. It's important for us to look at the development strategy, our prospects we see. The fact is that recently, after various ICOs which resulted in a scam, we worked mainly with a tool like ERC20.
Работали в основном с таким инструментом, как ERC-20. Это
This
стандарт,
is a
который
standard that was proposed, in my opinion, in 2015.
году. Это самый простой
This is the easiest way to implement a token on the Ethereum network, and it's, if we compare it with the real world, well,
если мы будем
an analog of the ordinary dollar.
ну, аналог обычного доллара. У нас есть соглашение.
We have an agreement on how many dollars we have in total. We have an agreement on which minimum dollar unit is a working one. It says I cannot cut a 1% coin and offer half a cent already.
Монету и предложить уже кому-то полцента. То есть это у нас
That is, this is our minimum.
И к этому токену у нас
And this token they have optional parameters. This is his name, but we don't have there yet. Not necessarily how much you have it at the moment. We just have the number of how many of them are released. Well, there is also an optional parameter, and there may be an additional emission on this token.
Может произойти дополнительная эмиссия этого токена. Но этот токен
But this token won the blockchain, and some users still ran into problems that were not foreseen in advance.
столкнулись с проблемами, которые не были предусмотрены заранее. Одна из проблем
One of the problems when
владелец
the owner of a token, let's call it TOC,
решает отправить его
decided to send it to some address of the contract, thinking that this is, let's say, a stock exchange, and
думает, что это, допустим, биржа. И тут оказывается неприятная ситуация.
then there is an unpleasant situation. This stock does not know about this stock.
То есть пользователь, который
Well, the user who sent these tokens basically lost them forever. And there are a lot of such examples. And even very famous and expensive tokens and completely unknown, and
неизвестные и дорогие токены, и
unknown to anyone have been sent. Say,
неизвестные никому. Ну, скажем,
let's say at the same Augur tokens, there are some addresses that are directly the batteries of such tokens. Let's say, look at the very first generated network address Genesis blocks.
Самый первый сгенерированный адрес сети Genesis блоки.
And the proposal was made.
Было
It's
сделано предложение.
intended for us of the contract that will accept the token can work with the token.
Контракт, который будет принимать токен, умел работать с токеном, если он не знает, что это за токен.
If he does know what kind of token it is, he simply turns him around. And accordingly, if us development and the offer must say for the user have the standard ERC 223.
ERC 223. Самым важным
The most important thing is that it provides backward compatibility with the ERC20 token, and the most important point, if the address to which we send this token does not know how to work with it, does not know it, the token will simply remain in its place. Well, person will not lose his money and nothing terrible will happen. Further development and more interesting of this option is ERC 827 token, if I'm not mistaken. Here the guys did a very good job. At a minimum, they are proud that the contract itself fits into 100 lines of code, is backward compatible with the ERC20 token, but it also has such advantages as joint management of tokens. So, you can delegate the transfer of tokens to someone via the function, and this is a very useful feature that can be used in practice. Let's say you're going on cruise to the Mediterranean and you want to move away from the internet, transfer control of tokens to a trusted person, but you do not want to transfer control to the wallet to him completely. It can work with your tokens at this time. In principle, this is one such advantage that can be applied in real life. Well, also, we're talking about the connection of real life and ours, let's say tokenomics, then the last time is a very fashionable trend, and it's not just fashionable. It's already forming a movement that will allow ICO to pass through in the future. Let's say, not only principles to ICO, but to link each token with real objects, assets, to make securitization and draw a parallel between the digital world and the real one. And in this case, the regulators of many countries go in this direction. And one example is Delaware law. When it was proposed to all corporations that these days to issue shares, key public blockchain registries. The only thing that you can always find out is who bought the shares and when these should be public. Well, let's say they're bespent, so in my opinion, it's ERC 884. It's again also compatible with the ERC20 in principle. About the validity of this token and how it should look. You can always request for any of these sites that have spent, let's say, an ICO or a public issue of shares, initial coin offering, or just initial public offering. Ask a request to the site the IP address, let's say something else. For example, the address of the site, well, let it be US, since we're in Delaware, and here just indicate the address and the Ethereum. Here is the public information that must be kept by the shareholder who issued these shares. This public information should be available, indicating who owns these shares and in what quantity. Well, it was originally supposed that this would be a single center that will maintain this registry in the state of Delaware, but over time they made amendments, and now every shareholder can lead his blockchain
Какие
publicly.
плюсы мы в этом видим?
What advantages do we see in this? The fact is that if such a decision came to us from the United States, as we know, all the regulation in world practice is often financially based on what they say there. Here we get, in principle, in publicity, and in another case, we will not need to explain and prove that we have this token used for one.
Нам не надо будет объяснять и доказывать, что у нас этот токен используется для
This
одного,
is
это
our
информация,
share,
это для доступа
this
к
for
услугам,
access to
это у нас
services,
для доступа
this
к
is for
подпискам,
access to
для подписки,
subscriptions,
так
about
далее.
subscription, by the way.
То есть,
This is separate token
в
offer.
данном случае
In this
очень,
case, it's very
хорошо
well linked to
юридически
the
стороной,
legal
я думаю,
side.
за
I think behind
этим
these kind of tokens in
токеном,
principle in the future,
в
there
дальнейшем
will be a
будет перспектива
prospect just like STO, secure token offering.
token offering. Поэтому
Therefore, I recommend to look to those who will conduct an ICO as much as possible to use this token in their decisions in the future. And if I mention a subscription, in my opinion, ERC 928 is one of the proposals of consensus when the token is used for subscription. Subscription may be different. Well, take the same Netflix, it could be a monthly subscription, there maybe a subscription to some specific services, maybe digital content, and so on. What is the situation in the real world?
Какие здесь ситуации в реальном мире получаются? Если человек
If a person pays a subscription in a month, let's say, a notification comes to him, you have run out of money, you need to replenish such and such an address, and then the subscription will resume. Many users, after the first, second such a constant reminder, then he should leave the money. The second option, that the user can immediately throw a lot of tokens, let's say 10 years in advance. But let's say if 10 years, for half a year the price of tokens can change so that he doesn't even know who owes him more. The company he paid for subscription or of himself. Well, this version of tokens is still under consideration. Here is important functions that will be used in it, that there will be a contract between the user and the token holder, or as those who issue tokens so that they can have a joint, and if necessary, write-off amounts that will be agreed in advance. So, with this exception of the latter, it was the consideration of the ERC-20 family of tokens, which are quite popular, fairly well known, and widely used. Well, then we move on to this topic. I started by saying that we initially agreed that ERC-20 tokens are like a dollar. We know the general issue, we can issue, we know that we have 1 cent which we cannot divide further. Next we have cats. Keyword is par for this money and big ones. So the ERC 721 protocol family. An most important feature of this protocol is that this token is irreplaceable. Well, I drew this cat. I can make him some kind of my own hash, and that's it. I will draw a cat on the next sheet of paper. It will be a different cat. This will be two tokens. All of them will be from the same family, the cat. Each token has own metadata. Well, in the usual 165 format JSON, there is the ID of the owner, the picture, and there are necessary values. What is the use of this token format? In the first place, this is of course collectible. How is it different from ordinary interchangeable tokens? Again, we compare it with the real world. We have an ordinary dollar and let's say a postage stamp. And dollars, we can pay for the products of the storage. With a postage stamp, we cannot pay. Also, it says 20 cents. But another feature which can be, we're not collectors of postage stamps who find such stamps which have their own crazy value. And each brand is individual, unlike the dollar. Also, the dollar principle is one hand also individual, since there is some kind of serial number on it, but still it's accepted as a unit of calculation and can be changed. While the URC721 format tokens are not replaceable and they have their owner. Yes, we can transfer it to another owner, we can sell it at auction, but now they cannot share. Well, they are indivisible. There are proposals, of course, to 3 formats, if anyone is interested. Again, on Anton's GitHub, he has a separate section on research tokens for the framework with references. You can walk in see this. But this led us to a whole industry of crypto cats, crypto zombie, there are banks and so on and so forth. For now, I think that the first wave, again, all the transactions that take place here are very expensive. We keep a register of these cats here. In the case of, let's say, we have postage stamps on it, we will have an array of stamps. These stamps will be indexed, and the owner's index, if we withdraw a brand, the array is not reset to us. The value 0 is just in the right place, but the size of the array still remains the same. And this is just digital value. Here, we transmit digital values. It can be not only cats. Suppose this can be an option we have for release tokens, for example, in a shared construction. 1 token, 1 square meter. 10 tokens, 10 square meters. Or you can share differently. This is our own apartment, right? And accordingly, if legally you also acquire possessions of token, like owning an apartment, I think that laws will come to this over time, and you can simply transfer the rights to this apartment in digital form, completely retaining the forests on our land. And this is one such application. There is of course a game. And the games, again, stimulate the development of a new type of token bitches, as it were. The hair of both these 2 tokens. This is a very interesting offer. ERC 998. What is it? We can collect our tokens. We should consider it in the previous version. We have 1 cat. We have a Chiburashka. We have, let's say, an apartment. These are three ERC-998 format tokens.
Это три токена формата ERC-998.
When we collect our cat,
Когда мы
Cheburashka, and put it in our apartment, we will get Salmon Universal Token.
квартиру, мы получим какой-то один универсальный токен.
The owner of which is, let's say, me.
Владельцем которым являюсь, допустим, я.
Here I live in the first cell of a cat.
В первой ячейке кошка. Во второй.
And the second is Cheburashka.
Ну и соответственно.
Well, and accordingly, this is my favorite house.
Мой любимый дом. То есть
Well,
это токен
It's a
композит
composite token that allows you to collect all your assets in one place.
Ну смотри.
But look,
Если этот
if it's not only cat and Cheburashka,
кошка и
which
чебурашка, которые
in fact are not particularly valuable,
особо ценными,
but not counting the expensive wool in some species of cats,
да, потому что
because
под шерстью
the cat itself is very expensive as a passport under the coat.
у нас есть, допустим,
We have, let's say, another car,
автомобиль, который
which we
у нас
parked
паркуется рядом с нашим домом, соответственно,
next to our house. Accordingly, we buy garage for it.
если ценность этого
If the value of this token along with the cat,
с чебурашкой небольшая, то
with the
добавив
Cheburashka is small, then adding another car to the kit,
совместно.
we thereby increase the joint value.
То же самое можно сказать, я
The same can be
сказал,
said
в игровой индустрии.
vice about the gaming industry.
Наверняка играли,
Many probably played
в разных играх.
in different games there is such a thing as craft
Когда берется, допустим, какой-то
items.
меч, в него
When the
добавляются
sword is taken, for example, some
руны, орехи,
gems are added to it
и этот
and something else, and this sword totally becomes much more expensive.
То есть этот токен позволяет
Well,
без всяких проблем
This token allows you to create such swords without any problems, to combine it
продавать, допустим,
one
на
place
аукционе среди
and sell it,
игроков за большую
let's say,
сумму. То
at
есть
an auction among the players for a large
на
amount.
то, что мы объединили
We transfer these digital rights to what we have combined together. Accordingly, there are opportunities both vertically and horizontally, and then to break the whole thing.
этот дом, машина, квартира
What will be the cost?
стоит 100 тысяч
But if, for
долларов,
example, this house, car, apartment will
и
cost
эксклюзивную чебурашку
$100,000
$200, да?
and a cat for 20 and exclusive Cheburashka for 200, altogether it can cost 500,000
То есть здесь особо никаких
and everything can be sold separately.
Поэтому
There
я
is no particular problem here, but on this we do not stop. The possibilities of the token, which are proposed even now in draft form, but there are already samples, we imagine again.
Представляем себе,
This our large token,
опять же, этот наш большой токен, но в нем у нас
but in
наш дом,
we have our home.
наша машина,
Our car,
ну, техника, там не техника, вещи приходящие, уходящие.
well, the technology there,
Вещи, которые необходимы
or
на дом.
no technology, things coming and going, but things come and go, which are necessary every day to the house and to the car, to the house, say, water supply, electricity, communal. The car must either be charged with the same electricity or filled with gasoline.
У нас являются
And so the home and car are,
21 напишу.
I will write 7221 here. URC is 7221.
В одном месте мы можем добавить
Here in one place we can add payment for water. Let's say we have a contract with a utility company and this will be an ERC20 token.
коммунальной компании, да? И это будет уже ERC-20 токен. Мы можем его расходовать, мы можем добавлять, мы можем
We can
перетаскивать.
spend, we can add, we can
Соответственно,
transfer.
за
Accordingly,
car мы будем добавлять
we will add gas for the car.
тоже пусть будет 20-м токеном. Газ
Let
есть
there be a
топливо для нашей автомобиля.
ERC20 token too.
Итак, мы совместно
Gas
получаем
means this
в
fuel
одном
for our
токене
car.
формата
And so we together
композиции
get in one token format
несколько
9 and
разных
8,
сущностей,
a composite
которые
token, several
мы
different
и
entities
только мы. Мы
that
можем
we and
продавать
only
части, мы
we
можем
own.
продавать, мы можем
We can
наследовать.
transfer parts, we can
И
sell, we
здесь,
can inherit.
помимо
And
вот
here,
такого случая, очень
in addition to
интересный
such a
вариант
case,
развития, но с моей
there's a
точки
very
зрения,
interesting
мне
development
кажется, в
option.
будущем,
Well, for my part, it seems to
когда
me in the future when legal documents are formed from some simple building
с
blocks.
каких-то простых кирпичиков, да, это, допустим, может быть договор аренды,
For example, this may be a lease agreement, for example.
право
These are rights to real
для
estate,
организации,
for the organization, for example, the salary of employees. It
It
all comes together. We get a production facility in which we have a written lease agreement for these premises in the form of some kind of digital right.
в виде какого-то цифрового права. Есть
There is a salary that passes through us and
сотрудникам.
is issued to employees again. There's also an agreement with employees and further on further.
Я думаю, все будет только зависеть от фантазии того, кто это будет применять в будущем.
Here I think everything will only depend on the fantasy of whoever will apply it in the future. Now in particular I work with an oversight project and
Консультант очень много
it's our city project as a technical consultant considers such similar issues a lot. And one of the goals is the study of tokens and how in the future it will be compiled on the principles of DAO.
Здесь мы все стоим в начале
Here we all stand at the beginning of the journey and I think that in the future one of you may become the owner of a large
может станет владельцем,
Chibu corporation. Someone, for example, will
кто-то, допустим, будет чеканить
mint digital stamps and sell them at auction.
на аукционе. Это как минимум самые такие
These are at least the most of the solutions. Well, then everything is not limited to the fantasy, but again, the fantasy of authors who offer tokens options is also not limited. All these can be found in the Ethereum GitHub section of such kind of thing. Look, discuss, comment, suggest your code, and accordingly work on the future digital to which we are actively pursuing. In principle, I think I'll probably finish this. If someone has questions, let's first applause for the report. Thank you very much, Denis. I see questions. Denis, but about 777, can you say something? Do you already know him? Tell me please, general ideas for Casino 3 sevens. It's simply offered as an understanding heard 3 sevens. Yes, 777, that's right, his offer as far as I understand to channel 20 now. I also thought that this was a as in 3 axis. No, the fact is that A to 7 is its improvement, the next one for us as there are a few different blacklists, various revocation options and the like. Just as, let's say, in the Devil's token, which is at 4, it's suggested there if a person has forgotten his key, but since he's in the database, there is a public blockchain, he can recover his key and get his tokens back. But this implies that additional emission is possible. We are not limited to any particular value, but about that, well, let's talk in detail. Denis, a little question. Well, I understand that some developers are sitting here and say understand it more than where the numbers came from. For example, 721, 834. Hell, I'm already confused about them. Tell me, maybe 666 is something cool. There is a core on GitHub, and that's where it comes from, and I thought that means something. Windows 7, then 8, then 10. But it is also at the core. Yes, Sergey. Thanks for the report, very structured. I wouldn't know if you know some other exotic tokens with a change in the balance. Well, for example, if your dividend token that is why I mentioned it separately, but basically it's now at the draft stage, just as a sentence, not even the contract itself. Why did I mention to go to Anton on the GitHub and see their research? They go right, then list as in brief what this token offers. Thanks, I'll take a look. Thank you for the report, and it's very interesting, but there are stays. I'm all about SOR, about corruption. Color tokens, only those can be spent only on building a specific kindergarten. Is it possible or not? And which one might be best suited to this? In principle, the main thing is that it does not cut through the blockchain. That's all. Here the question is precisely in controlling the consumption of these tokens. Even if they steal it, but since the blockchain is transparent, we can always find that we had a loss here. The question is, where will who stole? And what stage? Where did the gold go? Because it's impossible to return, for example, already back. I see. Thanks. Denis, I thank for the presentation. Very clear, but there was such a question. Again, I hope this question does not sound silly. Suppose that we populate cats and chiburage in the same room and they cannot exist with them. Is there any likelihood that tokens that are compatible with ERC20, let's say, which are based on this standard, may be incompatible with each other? The probability is, the fact is that there's a lot of old contracts that are fine, let's say, work with ERC20 standard, but for example, it may not accept 223. Well, in view of some additional checks and reasons, in principle, when we apply a new token, we need to move in that direction in order to deploy new contracts that will consider more conditions that would be more universal. Since placing a contract once in the network, he leaves there and will work until you stop fitting him in principle. Well, actually... So, thank you. Let's probably still have a couple of questions. Where's the time? No? That's all. Then thanks for the answer to the questions and for the report.